The Child Labor, Prohibition and Regulation Act, 1986. Dear friends, if I say child is a future, not only of his family but also of a nation, do you agree with me? I hope you agree with this statement. But it's very unfortunate to say that children who are innocent and our nation's future is being subjected to exploitation, inhuman treatment, and abuse. In our country, from time to time, various enactments have been made, such as the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act in 2012, the Commission for Protection of Child Rights Act in 2005, the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006, and many more to make the life better for children. Now the question arises is, are children free from exploitation? What do you think? The answer you find is no. Still, the children, especially from the poor and uneducated families, are still exploited in the form of bonded labor, or in many other employments, or in various other ways. Some of you might even seen the child who are employed in factories, roadside darbas, restaurants, motorcar workshops. But if you see on the other side, even the government cannot completely abolish child employment, as there are a huge number of poor families in India who are in situation like if everyone in the family works, then only that day's hunger could be satisfied. It's more like a hand-to-mouth living situation for them. In view of this, the Child Labor, Prohibition and Prevention Act outlines the occupation and processes in which children may work and which are prohibited. Applicability of the Act. This Act extends to the whole of India and contains 4 parts and 1 schedule. The schedule is further made into 2 parts, A and B. Part A contains lists of prohibited occupations, and Part B lists prohibited processes. Note, this restriction of prohibition is not applicable if in any workshop or any process is carried on by the occupier with the aid of his family or to any school which maintained or recognized by government. Object of the Act. The basic objective of the Child Labor, Prohibition and Regulation Act 1986 is to prohibit the engagement of children in certain employments and to regulate the conditions of work in certain other employments. The objective of the Act can be summarized as to ban the employment of children in specified occupations and processes, to lay down a procedure to decide modification or addition to the schedule of banned occupations and processes, to regulate the conditions of work of children in employments where they are not prohibited from working, to lay down enhanced penalties if any provisions of this Act is violated. Penalties could be imprisonment. The Child Labor Technical Advisory Committee. Central government has been empowered to add any occupation or processes to the schedule by giving at least 3 months' notice. To add or modify any occupation or process, central government is assisted by an advisory committee called the Child Labor Technical Advisory Committee. In case if required, this committee advises the central government to add or modify any occupation or processes to the schedule. The committee shall consist of a chairman and other members limited to 10. If necessary, the advisory committee can appoint 1 or more subcommittees. If required, any person may be hired who is not a member of the advisory committee. Central government prescribed the manner of filing casual vacancies, allowance, terms of office, and appointment of people who are required for assistance. Regulation of conditions of work of children. Hours and period of work. No child should be permitted to work for more 3 hours in continuous and maximum of 6 hours with 1 hour rest. The period of work of a child should include his interval for rest. The total 6 hours of work compromises 3 hours plus 1 hour rest plus 2 hours. No child should be permitted to work between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m. No child should be allowed to work overtime. Double employment of child is banned. Weekly holidays. Every child worker should be allowed 1 day holiday in each week. Such holiday of a child worker should be specified by the occupier in a notice permanently exhibited in a visible place in the establishment. Specified holidays for child worker should not be altered by the occupier more than once in 3 months. Health and safety. The appropriate government can make rules for health and safety of a child employed to work in any establishment by giving notification in the official gazette. The appropriate government is empowered to make rules in matters such as cleanliness, disposal of wastes, dust, lighting, precaution against fire, protection of eyes, spittoons, and ventilations, etc. Now, we shall look into prohibited occupations and process listed in Schedule of the Act. Part A. Prohibited occupations. Occupations listed in Part A of Schedule 1 are prohibited occupations. Some of the occupations listed are transport of passengers or goods, in building operation in the railway premise, work in a catering establishment at a railway station involving the movement into or out of a moving train, work relating to the construction of railway station, or with any other work which is in close proximity to the railway lines, the Port Authority within the limits of any port, selling of crackers and fireworks, slaughterhouses, automobile workshops and garages, handling of inflammable substance or explosives, handloom industry, mines, plastic units and fiberglass workshop, darbas, restaurants, hotels, motels, tea shops, resorts, spas, or other recreational centers, diving, circus, caring of elephants. Part B. Prohibited processes. Process included in Part B of Schedule 1 are prohibited process. Some of the processes mentioned in Part B are beadie making, carpet weaving, cement manufacture, including bagging of cement, cloth printing, dyeing, and weaving, manufacture of matches, explosive, and fireworks, mica cutting and splinting, soap manufacture, wool cleaning, building and construction industry, manufacture of slate pencils, including packing, manufacturing processes using toxic metals and substances such as lead, mercury, manganese, chromium, cadmium, benzene, pesticides, and asbestos. All hazardous process and dangerous operations as notified in the Factories Act 1948. In a famous case law of MC Mehta versus State of Tamil Nadu, it was held that children can be employed in the process of packing, provided packing should be carried away in a place which is away from the place of manufacturing to avoid exposure of accident. Punishment for violating the provisions of the Act. For violating any provision of the Act, the person responsible is punished, either by imprisonment or fine, or with both. Imprisonment. For first-time imprisonment may range from 3 months to 1 year. For person violating the rules repeatedly, imprisonment may range from 6 months to 2 years. Fine, ranging between 10,000 to 20,000. Or with both. Where to make complaint. Any person can make a complaint for the commission for any offence under this Act. All offences under this Act are tried by a court not inferior to that of a metropolitan magistrate or a magistrate of first class. Definitions. Definition 1. Appropriate government. In relation to establishments which are under the control of central government, such as railway administration, major port, mine, or oil field, the central government would be appropriate government. Whereas in all other cases, the state government is considered as appropriate government. Definition 2. Child. Child means a person who has not completed his 14 years of age. Definition 3. Day. Day means a period of 24 hours beginning at midnight. Definition 4. Week. As you all know, week consists period of 7 days. In this Act, week begins at midnight on Saturday or any other day's night, if approved in writing for a particular area by the inspector. Definition 5. Establishment. Establishment includes a shop, commercial establishment, workshop, farm, residential hotel, eating house, theatre, or other place of public amusement or entertainment. Definition 6. Family. Family in relation to an occupier means himself, his/her spouse, their children, brothers and sisters. Definition 7. Occupier. Occupier is the person who has the ultimate control over the affairs of the establishment or workshop. Definition 8. Workshop. Workshop is the premises, including the precincts, where the industrial process is carried on. Summary. 1. The basic objective of the Child Labour, Prohibition and Regulation Act 1986 is to prohibit the engagement of children in certain employments and to regulate the conditions of work or children in certain other employment. 2. Part 2 of the Act prohibits employment of children in the occupations set forth in Part A and in processes set forth in Part B of the Schedule. 3. No child should work for more than 3 hours before he has had an interval for rest for at least 1 hour. 4. The double employment of a child is banned. 5. The appropriate government may, by notifications in the Official Gazette, make rules for the health and safety of the children employed or permitted to work in any establishment or class of establishments.